All right, so I wanted to get on here and talk about trauma. More so the word trauma. And to be very short and to the point, we hear this word all the time now. Well, I do, and I see it more and more often. People are talking about it, shedding light on it, bringing exposure to it. A lot of agencies, organizations, companies are talking about it. I actually do a facilitation with the company that I work for on it. And so that is why I wanted to talk about it. I am reading some great books about it. Um, and of course, dealing with my own trauma as it pertains to my personal life. So that is why I wanted to talk about it, because it keeps coming up and it's very prevalent now. And I'm glad. I'm glad that it is coming up. I'm glad that people are starting to talk about things that have gone on in their lives that impact them today, especially in their childhood. So trauma, 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 trauma. I hear this, yet I am also learning, based on my conversations, based on my facilitating and things that I do with other people, and with myself as I'm progressing through, just acknowledging that people don't know what that means. People don't understand or comprehend what trauma is. And that's interesting to me. And I think that's why we need to have more conversation around it and not just use the word trauma, but really dig in and start talking about specifics. Because people don't understand. They're not comprehending what trauma is. I have a lot of people talk to me and tell me, oh, I've never experienced trauma. You know, they think that it's something that is very traumatic, extremely traumatic, to the point where people are debilitated or can't function and so forth and so on, or have diagnoses behind it, etc. Usually it's physical abuse, emotional, verbal, some form of sexual abuse. Rape is involved in that, and that's what people correlate the word trauma to. Not everyone, but a lot of people that I've come across and talked to, and or minimize the trauma that they've experienced because it wasn't one of those, right? So there's, I didn't experience trauma. I grew up in a home where I had both parents, secure foundation. I received all the, things that I needed. Basic needs were met. So I didn't experience trauma. I went to school, was educated, so forth and so on. I didn't experience trauma. False. False. Every human being walking this earth has experienced trauma. What that looks like can vary. There are definitely levels to it. There are variations to it. There are different dynamics to it. But everyone walking this earth has experienced trauma. Now, my reason for being on here is to talk about that. Sit down with the people that you say you love and talk about what it is. We don't do that enough. We say, oh, trauma, okay. But what is it specifically? Sit down and say, this is what I think my trauma may have been. Start researching it yourself. You grew up in a home where a parent was sick, ill, either mentally or physically. That's trauma, especially as a child, a young child, not being able to understand how to navigate the emotions that come around that. It's trauma. Growing up in an environment, culturally, or an environment that is drug stricken, so to speak. Violence. A home with violence. Growing up in a home where parents weren't necessarily cognizant about the movies that they watched, the type of movies, pornography, all of this type of stuff, the way in which they interacted with each other, one another, sexually. Even though you were a child, you weren't physically a part of it, you witnessed it. Trauma. Car accident. Trauma. These are things that, impact our systems, impact our bodies in a way in which it can dictate the way in which you navigate your adult life. Please stop minimizing your trauma. Start talking about it, releasing it, exposing it. Yes, I talked about myself being adopted. I expressed my gratitude in regards to having a family that supported me, loved me, encouraged me, so forth and so on, the stability. I still endured trauma. I endured trauma before I was able to even cognitively know that trauma existed. In my infancy, like I said, I was taken from my family, my biological, and infancy. That is trauma. I was not aware of it in infancy, but my body was, my system was. Contact, belonging. Those are things that I work through now. Trauma, right? I mean, you got to start talking about it. And it's such a stigma. Mental health, one, is a stigma. And, you know, the way in which we sit, especially in African American cultures, of just trying to be hard and strong, and I'm this and I'm fighting for that. And we're dealing with the trauma from our ancestors. All of us are, especially those who have been oppressed, etc., or still are. You know what I mean? Like, you got to start talking about that stuff and start talking about the ways in which it is interfering with the life that you're living now. Ways that it is coming up with the life that you are living now. Yes, we go out and we achieve different things. Okay? Yes, I'm educated. Yes, I've done this. Yes, I've obtained this acclimate. Yes, I've been accomplished, so to speak. When the lights go out or when the day ends and you're done working or doing whatever it is that you've done, you still live with your trauma and you're not talking about it. We got to do better, man. We got to do better. So I'm talking about this word. Start being specific about what that word means to you. A lot of people I talk to don't even know how they've been impacted in their childhood, and or suppressed it so long and so deeply that they're unaware of it. There's a lot of things that occurred in our childhood where we've just mentally, cognitively cut that part of our life out. We got to get in it. We want to do better in the future. We got to do better now. Start changing your actions, your verbiage around the word, around what's going on inside of you. Talk about your emotions. Talk about your day. Talk about what's going on internally. Express. Let it out. It's energy. The more you hold on to it, the more it's building up. And it builds up in different ways. People, we got to do better. All these illnesses, depression, anxiety, that's an emotional illness. That is a nervous system illness. Because of trauma, because of you holding on to whatever may have occurred without releasing. You're living in a habitual pattern and it's building up. That's what that is. Doesn't have to be. There's an alternative way. One starts with just acknowledging it and then living a different. You have to create a new system in your bodies to be able to get out of the old system. That makes any sense to people, man. But we got to do better. And I wanted to get on here and talk about trauma. And please sit with yourselves first and foremost. Have a conversation with yourself about what that looks like, what that feels like, how that impacts your body, your system, and the way that you navigate life now. And then sit with the people you say you love. Have a conversation with them about it. And not a pity conversation. Don't sit at the table or sit wherever you sit and say, oh my God, that happened to you. Oh my goodness, really? That's so sad. How did you? No. We're not doing that either. You are here, you are standing, you are living. This is something that occurred, and this is where I want to talk about it so that I'm able to create another way in which I navigate my life now, not around trauma. That's why you have the conversation, because you want to do something differently. All right, man. Again, I feel like my voice is elevating. It's just passion. Passion that we need to do better. It's passion in knowing that we can do better. We have to uplift one another. It's real. It's real. And know that you're supported. The more you share your life, your stories, the more people are connected and understand that they're not alone. We're not out here to heal anybody, to fix anybody. That is our own responsibility. But sharing goes a long way. I'm out.